All right, let's start with some big but expected news. So I don't have that much more to say about it than I've already said, because this is exactly what we've been expecting. Joe Biden's voting rights bill seems to be dead because Democrats have been unable to change the filibuster, which very clearly became a prerequisite to really be able to do the voting rights bill. And this is exactly what we expected. So I don't know how much there is to say. But as the Associated Press is reporting, voting bill collapses, Democrats unable to change filibuster. Voting legislation that Democrats and civil rights leaders say is vital to protecting democracy. That's true. It is. Collapsed when two senators refused to join their own party in changing Senate rules to overcome a Republican filibuster after a raw emotional debate. Who are those two senators? Well, I'm sure many of you know they are Democratic Senator Joe Manchin and Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema. The outcome Wednesday night, says the AP, was a stinging defeat for President Biden and his party, coming at the tumultuous close to his first year in office. Yeah, almost to the day. Biden said in a statement after the vote, "I am profoundly disappointed, but that he is, quote, not deterred, and vowed to, quote, explore every measure and use every tool at our disposal to stand up for democracy." So the question now is what can be done via executive order to maybe put in place some elements of what would have been in the voting rights bill. But Manchin and Sinema's positions on this, not a surprise. And the idea of changing the filibuster, remember, was to reduce the threshold for debating the voting rights bill from 60. When you have 50 Democrats and you need 60 votes, you need 10 Republicans. This is pretty simple math. The idea of changing the filibuster was to change the requirement of 60. In order to do that, they needed all 50 Democrats. They didn't have them. The filibuster doesn't change, and thus there is at this time no path forward for the voting rights legislation. Now, I think it's important that, when we talked about leading into the 2016 election, there were these people who should be really crawling into a hole and never being heard from again in terms of their opinions, who were saying Hillary, Trump, it's not really going to make a difference. It's all kind of the same. If it's not a real progressive, I don't want the person. It doesn't really matter. And we said, well, but sir, ma'am, what about the Supreme Court? What about all these different things? Look at the Supreme Court at this point in time. Look at all the things. Look at the disasters that ended up happening under Donald Trump. So we've got to remember that. At the same time, we have to remember now that this is a fundamental building block of our democracy. Republicans have made it clear they've abandoned policy. They've abandoned convincing people that their ideas are good. They merely want to win on obstructing Democrats and using voter suppression and various other tactics to make it more difficult to vote to try to win elections. And then if you don't win, try to steal the election. That's what they do now. And so when something like this gets stalled in its tracks, hopefully Joe Biden can do some of this via executive order. We don't yet know. We have to see. But remember these kind of turning points. And one of those was Hillary, Trump. How bad could Trump really be? Let's send a message. Let's shake it up. Wow, what a disastrous 4 years. We've got to be thinking along those same lines here. One of our sponsors is CuriosityStream, the only streaming service dedicated to documentaries. And when you use my link below, you can get CuriosityStream for just $15 a year. I've been using CuriosityStream for almost a year now. It's become my go-to app for video entertainment. I've always found CuriosityStream as a better selection of documentaries than Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon. They have documentaries on politics, economics, history, technology, psychology, really everything. I just finished watching The Celts, about the Celts, a group I did not know a lot about. Fascinating. CuriosityStream always has the newest and most critically acclaimed titles. You can watch on any device, and CuriosityStream is giving my audience 25% off a subscription, which comes out to just $15 a year. Go to curiositystream.com/Pacman. The link is down below.